Hi, everyone. I'm Paul with MadCap Software. In this video, I am going to talk about sites, private sites specifically. So what does that mean? Private sites. Well, that means that you are generating output on MadCap Central and you are hosting it up on Central. And you want to make it accessible to people, but not just anybody. If you don't specify that something's private, pretty much anybody out there can see your output if they've got the link to it. But you can lock down your output to only, a select group of people. So maybe you just happen to have output for your customers, but the output is something you just don't necessarily want everybody outside of your customer base to see. So you can make it private. Or you can do something like what I do, is that I will create not only output that's meant for everybody in the world, but also for just people within our company, MadCap Software, other employees. So I'll create versions of my output that they're ongoing. It's new features yet to come. We don't want everybody to see it yet. So I want to make it private. So only people in our company can see it as long as I give them access. So let's go into MadCap Central and let's set up a situation like that, and you can see how it all works. I'm going to come over here to projects. You can see all the projects I've added. I'm going to go to this one cool flare project, which I created as just a small project and bound it to Central. And if I go in here to the builds page, you have to have build some output, otherwise there's nothing to show anybody. And so I built some output here. Now, when I built this particular one, this project, I created some branches for it. And I've talked about branches earlier in this series. And if you don't know what that is, go check out the videos, source control videos that are done on branching. But so if you're not using branching, it'll just be the master branch. You would see master branch here. But this particular project, I am using branching. And that's a good thing to do when you are creating private output, especially for output that's like what I did. It's just meant as in development output. And so I didn't want to do it from my master branch. If I go select to create a new build, you can see these are the branches that I created. One's called develop, one's called feature 1, feature 2, feature 3. There's master and there's release. Now, in my own project, what I do something like this. I have branches just like this. I've got master, release. I've got a bunch of feature branches. And then I create one called develop. And develop is sort of this mishmash. That's how I use it. So I will merge other branches, my different feature branches, into develop. So it's got a little bit of everything in there. So people can see everything that's under development. And that's what I want to show you. I generated output that is based on that branch. So it's content in development. Now, what do you do once that's done? Well, one of the things that you need to do for private output is set up a team. That's how Central is going to know who's allowed in. Okay, so if you go look at my users in here, I've got several users in here. And if you scroll down, you can see got some authors in here, some viewers, some SMEs. In my own license, the vast majority of the people in here are viewers, which means that they're just allowed to see the output. They're not authors who can get into the license and do a bunch of other things. They're not SMEs who are reviewing content. They're just viewers. They're just there to view the output. But you can give access to any of these user types for your private output. And what you want to do is create a team, and anybody on that team is eventually they're going to be the ones who are going to be able to log in and see your output. So I'm going to create a new one here, and I'm just going to call this private outputs. Oops. Now you can have as many teams as you want. You can see I already have a few in here that I just created in the past. But here's the thing. If you're doing something like I'm doing, where you are just granting access to people in your company, for your outputs. You want anybody in your company to see any of your outputs. You don't have to create a whole bunch of teams. I just have one team, and it's basically anybody in our company who wants to see the private outputs. And so I just created that, and I come in here to users. It lists all my users. I'm just going to select everybody: authors, SMEs, viewers, everybody. And I can come here and I can also associate the team with my project as well as any other projects I want to. All right. I don't have a site yet, so I'm not going to that I want to associate with this yet. I'm going to connect that when we create the site. So I'm going to just click save here. Now you can see there is my team and all the people that are associated with it because I selected them and the projects. Now I'm going to go into sites. I have a few sites in here. I'm going to create a new one just for this. And so I'm going to name this one. This is for my I'm creating this for my HTML5 output in that project. It doesn't, you can have, any of your other output types can be private too. I just happen to have this HTML5 one I'm going to do. I'm going to skip these fields down here, come down to builds. And so I need to select my project, cool, Flare project, target. So there's my HTML5. What branch? Well, I told you I'm doing this on my develop branch. That's the one I created output for. And then what's the build? So it lists any builds that I have. And you saw I only have one that I've generated. If I had 72, I would see 72 in here. But I don't want to select, in my case, I don't want to select a specific build. I'm going to select latest build, because the idea of in this scenario is I'm constantly generating and updating this output. And I want anybody to be able to log in at any time and see the latest stuff. So this way I don't have to keep informing people, hey, there's new stuff. Hey, there's new stuff. They just go in and the new stuff is there. As soon as I generate a new build, it takes the latest thing. All right, so what's next? Well, I'm going to make it live, and I'm going to make, and it selects by default this include in search engines. But as soon as I select set private, it deselects that because we don't want it to come up in search engines because this is private output. Now, do you have to select set live? Well, it depends on your audience. If you select this set live, then any of your user types can see your private output: viewers, SMEs, authors. If I were to deselect it, only authors on my license could see this private output. So in my case, I'm going to select set live. And that's all I need to do in here. And I click save. And it brings up the profile so I can see all my settings in here. Now I am going to select my team. Come down here. So this is just another way to connect teams with sites. And I'm going to select edit. Brings up my teams. This is mine, the one that I just created, private outputs. Click save. Okay. There, I did that. Now, before I go and we take a look at the output, I also want to let you know that there's another way to add people onto your team. So what happens, say that you've created your private site and it's going and people are using it, but then your company hires new people and they need to get onboarded too. So you can do this when you are inviting people to the license. So I can come in here into users and add a new user, and I just go through this this wizard. And when I add the people, and I can add one user or I can add a whole bunch of people. It talks about how you can do that, by using a CSV file up here. But as I go through this, one of the things that I can do is select a team. In fact, if you're inviting viewers, you have to select a team. And so I would select that team that I set up, and then they would be part of that. The other thing that happens is we'll get new people will be hired, and I don't know that they've been hired, but I'll get a notification. I'll get an email or request to add them, and I'm going to show you where that happens. So let's go back to sites. So here is my new private site. And if I expand this, I can see there is the link, the link to the final output. And what happens is when somebody goes to that link, it doesn't just automatically open up the output, it opens up a login for them. And before they can see the output, they have to put in their email address and their password to their central license. All right. And they click login, and now they can see the output. And what's cool with this, when you happen to have HTML5 output that you've made private, you also get, because of the output type, this thing right here, this account thing where people can go change their settings and they can log in and log out of the output. That's unique to the HTML5 output type. Now, I had shown that you log in, right? What if somebody isn't yet on the team and they put in this stuff and they click login? What it will do is it will say, hey, you don't have access to this thing. Do you want to request access? They say, yeah, I do. And then I am the administrator, and I get an email address, or I get an email notification, and it lets me know, hey, this person wants access. And then I can go in and I can add that user to my license, and I can add them to the team, and now they'll have access. That is how it works. One of the things that I mentioned is that HTML5 output isn't the only format where you can do this. You can do it with all your output formats, basically. But I mentioned in other videos that not all of the output formats can be viewed directly from Central. Things like HTML help, Word documents. So can those be set as private? Yeah, they can. But what happens is, as soon as someone goes to that link and they try to get to that, say that Word document, they will get the login and they log in. Well, it's not going to open up the Word document. It'll download it. And so they can view it then, but they still have to log in. It's still private. All right. So that is private outputs. Really, really cool feature. And what we're going to do in the next video in this series is we're going to talk about how you can have control over your URL, your domain, how you can customize that. So I will see you in that video.